A very good morning, students. We are continuing our discussion on Aurangzeb's reign. In our last class, we have discussed about the certain rebellions which Aurangzeb faced, and we already discussed about that the strong challenges from the Sikh community and the Marathas that Aurangzeb had to face. Marathas started to become a superpower under the leadership of Shivaji Maharaj, whose picture you can see on the screen right now. Shivaji Maharaj took birth in 1627 and gradually he adopted certain military skills like guerrilla warfare. In our last class, we have discussed about guerrilla warfare. Now, when Shivaji was developing his power and skills, it was a threat for Mughals, and under the leadership of Shivaji, Maratha empire or Marathas were able to establish a strong empire. These colored areas on this map are the areas which were controlled by Shivaji. So you can understand Shivaji was becoming powerful, and that's why the neighboring kingdom Bijapur felt a strong threat, and the Sultan of Bijapur sent his commander Afzal Khan with huge army to defeat Shivaji, but it was not possible for Afzal Khan, and that's why Afzal Khan planned for a private meeting with Shivaji and he wanted to capture Shivaji from there. But anyhow, Shivaji understood that Shivaji always carried a metallic claws, sharp claws under his garments. By using that, anyhow, he fled away from that meeting of Afzal Khan, and this incident was a great threat for Aurangzeb also. That's why Aurangzeb sent his commander Shaista Khan to defeat Shivaji in the adjacent area of Maharashtra and Gujarat, but it was not possible for Shaista Khan and Mughal army to defeat Shivaji, and Shivaji was able to capture the Surat fort, which was under the control of Mughals at that time. Now in next, Aurangzeb sent his reliable commander Raja Jai Singh, whose picture you can see right on the screen, and Raja Jai Singh was quite successful to control Shivaji's power, or to make Shivaji understand the power of the Mughals, and that's why Shivaji had to sign a treaty which is called Treaty of Purandar, which was signed in June 11, 1665, and this sign took place in the fort of Purandar, and according to the treaty, Shivaji had to give away 23 forts to the Mughals, earlier what he captured, and on the other hand, the Mughals also accepted the coronation of Shivaji, or Shivaji became the Maratha emperor on 6th June 1674. The coronation ceremony took place at Raigarh Fort, and Shivaji was accepted by the Mughals also as the Maratha emperor or Maratha ruler. Next, let us discuss about certain policies adopted by Shivaji, like his council of ministers. This was the administrative policy. 8 council of ministers were there, 8 members were there, who were called altogether Ashtapradhans. Peshwa, the head of the council or the prime minister, was there. Senapati, commander of army, was there. Nyadhish or the chief justice was there. Majumdar, who was the head of the revenue department. Then Panth Sachiv, who was the general secretary who actually exercised all the decisions taken by Shivaji in practical. Then Mantri, head of the intelligence, and last was Dandadhiksha, who was the head of the religious matters. So these Ashtapradhans or these 8 members of Council of Ministers under Shivaji, who were the efficient people who worked along with the Maratha Empire. Next is that his economic policy. First of all, Shivaji collected revenue based on the production of land. Along with that, he collected 2 different kind of taxes. One was Chaut and one was Sardeshmukhi. Actually, these taxes were collected from the adjacent area of Maratha kingdom for the protection of these areas. These people, they had to pay this tax. Chaut was the 1/4 of the production, and Sardeshmukhi was the 10% tax levied on the adjacent area out of the Maratha Empire, and these 2 taxes were collected regularly, and Shivaji appointed the officers to collect these taxes. Along with these policies, Shivaji also was quite skillful with his military skills, and that's why we can say that Shivaji was an intelligent and courageous person who was able to carve a strong independent Maratha kingdom without any external help. You can understand he was quite powerful and intelligent. That's why he was able to set up a proper rule against the Mughals, and he followed a policy of religious tolerance. That's why he was quite popular instead of Aurangzeb, and he was inspired by the writings of Tukaram and Ramdas, 2 prominent Marathi religious thinkers and writers. But after Shivaji also, the conflict continued between the Marathas and the Mughals. Aurangzeb captured the Maratha capital and killed Shivaji's son Shambhuji, but Shambhuji's younger brother Rajaram escaped and continued the fight against the Mughals. After his death, his widow Tarabai also continued this fight for next 18 years. This fight continued until the death of Aurangzeb in 1707. Outcome of the conflict with the Marathas. This long drawn conflict between the Marathas weakening the Mughal rule, because Aurangzeb had to spend too much of money to maintain a huge army against the Marathas, and when he tried to concentrate on the Maratha region in southwestern part of India, in the northern part of India, the nobles started to rebel against Aurangzeb. Along with that, the nobles were corrupted because of the absence of Aurangzeb, and the Mughals started to break up their central control, and that's why the Mughal army also mutinied in the Deccan, and which ultimately resulted that the regional kingdom started to become strong, and the process of declining of the Mughal empire started to develop after the Aurangzeb's death. Estimate of Aurangzeb. Now let us discuss about the general features of Aurangzeb's reign. We can say that the first thing is that Aurangzeb was quite intolerant toward other religions, because he wanted to make a Islamic state, and when he revised Akbar's policy and reintroduced jizya and pilgrimage tax on the non-Muslims, especially on the Hindus, and that's why the Sikh community and the Rajput community, they became hostile against the Mughals, and that's why these policies helped in the decline of Mughal empire. along with that, he followed the policy of discrimination on the basis of faith, that means based on religion, and that's why he lost his popularity like other Mughal rulers. And you can understand that easily that Aurangzeb had a huge empire to control, that's why he had to increase tax, and which ultimately didn't help Aurangzeb. And after his death, when his successors were weak, the process of the declining of the Mughal empire started and became prominent, and independent regional kingdoms started to emerge. And that's why historians, they say that the process of Mughal decline started during the time of Aurangzeb.